Please welcome with me to Inspiration Today, Brigitte Gabriel. Brigitte, so nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you.
I really enjoyed your book. Quite a wake-up call. Because They Hate. We're going to be talking about this today with Brigitte. What a story. What a story of a young girl growing up in southern Lebanon when the Islamic movement came in and turned Lebanon from a Christian nation to an Islamic country. I mean, tell us a little bit what that was like. I mean, I can't imagine living in a bomb shelter for 7 years and all the things you talk about in the book. This is not just a factual expose, if you will, about why they hate and who they are and all the rest of it, but it's a personal story.
Exactly. I come to the issue of terrorism from a personal perspective because of my upbringing in Lebanon. And many people do not realize that Lebanon used to be the only Christian majority country in the Middle East. Today, when people watch the news and they see demonstrations by Muslims through the streets screaming death to America and death to Israel, they don't realize that Lebanon used to be a democracy, a republic very much like the United States of America. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we had open border policy, we welcomed everyone into our country, because the Christian majority in Lebanon, which was the fabric and the shape of Lebanese society after we got our independence from France, were based on Judeo-Christian values. They were open-minded, they were kind, they were giving. They wanted to share with the Arabic world the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Middle East. We had built the best...
Is that Lebanon's history? I mean, or did Lebanon morph into that from something else?
No, the majority of the population in Lebanon was Christian.
Okay.
When we got our independence from France in the early 40s, over 60% of the society were Christians. However, as the years passed by, after 20, 30 years after our independence, the Muslims, because of the way they multiply, they became the majority in the society. And this is something that now the West is waking up to, realizing that worldwide Muslims are out reproducing us 7 to 1. And I use Lebanon as the small example because in Lebanon, we Christians get married to one spouse until death do us part.
Right.
We have 2, 3 children. From the time our kids are born, we start thinking about what education we're going to give them.
Right.
The Muslims, on the other hand, are allowed to marry up to 4 wives at a time. And that's not specific to the Shiite sect or to the Sunni sect. This is across the board, the Islamic law. All a Muslim man has to do to divorce his wife is say you are divorced 3 times in a row and she is divorced.
That's it, pretty simple.
No attorneys required, and all he has to do is wait 24 hours before he can marry another one. And they have a lot of children.
No such thing, I'm sure, as property rights and things of that nature for an Islamic woman.
No, women have no right of whatsoever. Women don't even have rights, don't even have custody of their children after the divorce. Part of the major problems in Saudi Arabia today, especially Saudi Arabia as the example of Islam or a country that adopts Sharia law and practices Sharia law today in the 21st century. When a man divorces his wife, she loses all the right to the children because all the kids belong to the father.
Wow.
And now this is part of the major problems in Saudi Arabia, is women trying to hire attorneys to try to get back to their children, or at least visitation rights or the sort.
Wow.
But we in Lebanon were different because we had laws influenced by the Judeo-Christian values because of the majority Christians. And this is what made the Muslims surrounding us literally despise what we had. Even though the Arab sheikhs and the royal Arabs used to come to Lebanon and party in the 60s because my country offered them what their countries forbid. Even though we were a westernized nation, we still practiced a conservative Arabic culture, being based in the Arab Middle East. It was a very family-oriented atmosphere where husbands respected their wives, where fathers respected their daughters, where girls were protected, where girls were educated. The Muslims and the Christians in Lebanon together as a society, the girls were educated just like the boys. They went to universities. We had built the best universities in the Middle East. Muslims sent their children to study in our universities. They graduated and they worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, even though we did not have any oil. Lebanon became known as Paris of the Middle East in the mid-60s.
Okay.
But all that changed
So what
once
changed
the Muslims
that?
became the majority.
How did that happen? Are you saying it happened just by birth rate and proliferation, or was there an influx of Muslims from other countries, like refugees and things like that?
The influx from other countries by the Palestinians is what tipped the scale in Lebanon. Because even though we had our problems with the Muslim communities, especially as they grew, and especially in the south where the majority of the Shiites lived, we always had the problems contained, and Lebanese democracy hung in the balance. However, with the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan, when King Hussein kicked them out, and actually King Hussein killed more Palestinians in Black September, more than the state of Israel has killed in all its existence. We in Lebanon took the Palestinians in. We were the only country to take a third wave of Palestinian refugees because we were Christians and open-hearted and tolerant. We wanted to bring them in. And Yasser Arafat, the reason why he was kicked out of Jordan is because he was to overthrow the king and create a base from which to fight Israel, kill the Jews, and throw them into the sea. Something he was not able to do in Jordan. He failed because of the dictatorship of the king, yet he was able to come to Lebanon, use our laws, our open-mindedness, our fair, our tolerance, our open border policy,
set up Hezbollah,
to literally topple our democracy, using our own democracy against us.
Now, you were a young girl when all of this was taking place.
Yes, I was 10 years old when the war began. The Palestinians came into Lebanon in 1970. By 1974, the Christians became afraid to travel because the Palestinians and the Muslims gathered their forces together, and they would set up fly-by-night checkpoints and would check cars traveling, and they would look at their IDs. And
now,
in
this
Lebanon,
is in and out of Lebanon, or within
the country, within cities, they would just set up fly-by-night checkpoints.
So to go from one part of the city to the next, you went through checkpoints.